Hi, welcome to the Hill Ponton video blog. I'm attorney Rachel Cheek. Today we're going to be talking about deferred decisions and deferred ratings, what those terms mean, what the difference is, and what the significance is if you receive one of these. And so first we'll start with deferred decisions. Deferred decision is when you file a claim for a condition or increased rating or earlier effective date, and you get a decision back that lists the issue, but simply states it's deferred rather than making a decision. I'll give you an example. This would be, you make a claim for service connection for anxiety, left knee strain, sleep apnea, and hearing loss. A month, years later, you get a decision that says PTSD, service connection granted, left knee strain, service connection granted, sleep apnea denied, entitlement to service connection for hearing loss deferred. What this means essentially is that those first three issues have been decided, but that last issue of hearing loss is deferred. And what happens when VA issues a decision like this, the reason they do it is because either the claim is incomplete or there's not enough evidence yet to decide on that particular issue. So, in that example I gave, VA can decide certain issues, but not others. They do list them on the rating decision. I think just so you know that, okay, they're still working on it, but it lets you know to keep an eye on for another rating decision for that condition. Because if you get a deferred decision on an issue, you will eventually get an actual decision, whether that's a grant, a denial, or a granting of whatever benefit you're asking for. I gave the example of hearing loss because that's a very common one we've been seeing over this past year. With the pandemic, obviously it's been pretty difficult to schedule in-person exams. The VA has gone to telephonic exams for some conditions, but they can't test your hearing over the phone or over a video. So a lot of times I've been seeing hearing loss or tinnitus being deferred because the veteran needs to actually go to an exam before a rating or even service connection can be assigned. So if you get a decision where one issue hasn't been decided yet, don't worry, they will come out with another one. And actually the decision should tell you the reason that that condition was deferred. They may say, we're waiting for more evidence from this facility, you need to have an examination, you need to give us this additional piece of information, etc. Another reason that a decision can be deferred is that you did have a C&P examination or a medical opinion was provided, but it wasn't complete. When the VA asks for a C&P examination, they use very specific language to the examiners. Sometimes they're asking if a condition is connected to service directly, secondary to a service-connected condition. There can be some complications, and if the C&P examiners don't answer that question exactly, the VA will usually send that back for further development. So another type of decision you can get with a deferral is a deferred rating. So this is when you get a decision, it comes out, it grants service connection, but no rating has been assigned. Usually the way that will look on the decision is, say, service connection for depression. Service connection granted, sometimes they'll assign a 0% rating, sometimes they'll just say rating has been deferred. And the reason being is often, again, because they need to get an examination or they need to get more evidence. So I can kind of explain why these come out, and it is because, the first step for any grant of service connection is obviously getting it service connected, showing that link to service. Once service connection is assigned, there are two other factors that come into play. You've got to have a rating, which is the way that VA determines the amount of your monthly payments. And you also have an effective date, which is usually the date of claim. I'm sure we'll have some more videos talking about effective dates at some point. The way that ratings get assigned for service connection grants can depend on who is doing the granting. Is it the regional office, the agency that you file your claim with, or is it the Board of Veterans Appeals? Did you get a decision from the regional office you disagreed with and you appealed up to the board? When the board has a question of service connection, they're not going to assign ratings or an effective date. They're just going to say yes or no, this condition is service connected. When they do that, they then send the issue back to the regional office to decide a rating and an effective date. Sometimes the board will grant service connection for something and the regional office will pretty soon after come out with a rating decision, giving you your effective date and your rating. Sometimes they don't, especially in older cases where maybe you've never had a C&P exam or the last exam that you had was was years and years ago, and they need to get some more updated evidence to figure out what your condition should be rated. Regardless of level, whether you're at the regional office or the Board of Veterans Appeals, you may end up getting a decision with a deferred rating. Common example that I've been seeing is for Blue Water veterans who are now entitled to the presumption of exposure to Agent Orange and are now entitled to the presumption that any condition that has been recognized to be caused by Agent Orange was caused by their service. So this is something where you can have, say you put in a claim for Agent Orange exposure conditions relating to that at the regional office. They may go ahead and grant service connection because obviously there's no question that you should be service connected, it's presumptive, but maybe they haven't had time to schedule an exam. And without that exam, they don't know what the rating should be yet. Same issue at the board. Maybe you have an appeal pending from, years ago before the Blue Water Navy Act went into effect. The board at that point, the whole reason the issue is at the board was decide service connection, but with the passing of with these new laws, that's not really an issue anymore for the board. So they'll return that down to the regional office again to decide what the rating should be. Again, you may get a deferred rating until they can schedule an examination or get more evidence. So kind of the closing thing I'd like to leave you with is if you see a deferred decision or a deferred rating, don't panic. It's not a denial. They both start with a D. Sometimes I do get I get nervous before I can get to the rest of the word when I get a deferral, but you will get a rating decision on it. You will get an actual rating assigned. It will just be down the line. Deferred, they're kicking it down the road a little bit, but they will come up with a decision.